All right, Chrissy, thank you. Attorney General Jeff Sessions says that he is now recusing himself from any investigations dealing with President Trump's campaign ties to Russia.
But he also says he's not resigning. Doug Lazater is in Washington with reaction.
Congress will continue to investigate whether Russia meddled in last year's presidential campaigns. So will the Justice Department. But U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions will not play a role. Attorney General Jeff Sessions firing back, taking aim at Democrats who say he needs to resign after failing to disclose a meeting with Russia's U.S. Ambassador Sergei Kislyak during last year's campaign, while Sessions served on the Senate Armed Services Committee.
I think it was hyped beyond reason, and I think it was unfair.
Sessions says that when he was asked about Russia during his confirmation hearings, he denied contacts because they didn't involve campaign issues. Nevertheless, early yesterday, he made this call.
I have recused myself in the matters that deal with the Trump campaign.
Still, it's not enough for many Democrats who are calling for Sessions to resign.
The fact that the Attorney General, the top cop in our country, lied under oath to the American people is grounds for him to resign.
Mr. President, do you still have confidence in the Attorney General, sir? Total.
President Trump gave Sessions his support during a visit to Virginia. But for Sessions, the real problem came when other Republicans joined the chorus.
If there isn't an investigation, then Jeff Sessions will step aside because he's part of the campaign team.
Other criticism of Sessions seemed to strike wide of the mark, though. Missouri Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill, who serves on Armed Services just like Sessions did, tweeted this: "I've been on the Armed Services Committee for 10 years. No call or meeting with Russian ambassador. Ever. Ambassadors call members of Foreign Relations Committee. The problem? She did meet with the same Russian ambassador and even tweeted about it at the time." And McCaskill ultimately clarified that, saying that she meant to say she never had a one-on-one meeting with the Russian ambassador. In Washington, Doug Lazater, Fox News.
Now, a lot of people are saying that Attorney General Jeff Sessions recusing himself could just be the beginning.
Joining us now with more political professor, Ric Epps. Ric, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Christina. Good morning, Rob.
So let's start with Sergei Kislyak. Who is he exactly?
Well, he's an old Russian diplomat. He's been around since certainly the Gorbachev era. So going back, 25, 30 years, served in a variety of capacities around the world, served as ambassador to the UN, and since 2008 has been ambassador to the United States, serving around Washington, D.C. So he's a player. He's a major political player for Russia.
The big issue here is what Sessions said and how he said it, because it's not uncommon for a senator to meet with an ambassador from another country, right?
Yeah.
So it's in how the question was asked and how he answered it.
Yeah.
What is the main issue here?
Well, there's a couple things that play out here. It's not only just the way he answered the question concerning his involvement, but it's also the process. If you look at the allegations, right? I know the Democrats are saying, hey, let's get rid of him, and the Republicans are recusing him. But here's the thing. When you look at what's happened over the last 6 months, and starting back in July, when Sessions first meets with the Russian ambassador at the Republican National Committee, here's what happened, or convention rather. So here's what happens. The allegations were already out there that there was some tampering by Russia. You would think at that point that that your campaign would back away completely so that they would avoid any sort of liability there. But then we see in September there's another meeting, and then we see again when we get to December, which just came out yesterday, that Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, along with the former Attorney General Mike Flynn, also meet with him again at Trump Tower. And while it's not a smoking gun, it certainly, when you look at the body of evidence, it becomes very concerning, and the American public should be rightfully concerned, no matter what side of the political aisle you happen to stand on in this situation.
And should we? I guess you just mentioned this, but so with Trump's relationship with the Russians, should we be more concerned now after this has come out, essentially?
Well, I think it's, when you look at the cache of information that's coming out, and you see now everything's coming out of the woodwork. So all of a sudden, things that were not put out in front of the campaign are all leaking now. We also know that 3 of Trump's national security advisors that were on his election team were also had been involved in the meeting with him with the Russian ambassador as well. And not that it's unusual to meet with an ambassador, but when you think about the rhetoric of what Trump said going into the election about Russia, opening up Hillary's emails and things like that, it looks really, really bad. And when you talk about this on the heels of Tuesday, when Trump basically had his best day, ever, I think, in terms of his rhetoric and his speech, and now it starts to look really awkward and looks really strange, because now you have the information in front of you that looks very, excuse my term, damning toward Sessions. Sessions tries to play it off like he didn't remember the conversation, like it was no big deal. I find that very difficult to believe, considering the situation. So to play the good country boy thing sounded all nice and wonderful, but it doesn't mean that the fact that this could be open up a serious can of worms for the president.
And some people are saying, well, he was lying by omission, which is still lying in their eyes. The Republicans are saying that this is a witch hunt. Is this a witch hunt because they want him off?
There probably are some people on the Democrat side who definitely want his head. They didn't want him from the beginning, for viable reasons. I get that.
Sure.
But on the other side of this, I really don't see it as a witch hunt. I see it as the reaction of, this is the danger that we run into when we allow foreign governments to get involved in our process. And let me add a side note to that. If you go back to Julian Assange, who's an Australian national, who basically leaked information because knowing that he didn't like Hillary Clinton, that he leaked information that would be damaging to her campaign. What that suggests to us is that, well, wait a minute, we now have foreign governments and foreign entities and individuals who are now dictating our election process and our election outcomes, and that's the place where American citizens should be more afraid. That's the place we should have a moment of pause and be really looking at this. And by the way, the last thing I will say regarding this is the fact that when we talk about the potential for investigating this, we should consider not using the standing committees in Congress, which are led by the majority party, which are the Republicans, but creating a House or having a select or special committee that is based on having a mix of both Democrats and Republicans to investigate this situation.
And Rick, so many are calling for his resignation. Do you think Sessions should resign at this point?
I don't think he should resign yet, but I do believe that if the evidence that is there and that starts to mount, that if he's going to try and save the Republican Party and save face for them, then he should definitely resign. He's the head lawmaker of the country, and to be in a situation where you would cause disparagement on the office and on the president, then you should definitely resign. He should resign.
It's been a wild first 40 days or so, huh?
Whew, boy, stay tuned.
Tell you what, keeping Ric Epps employed, I'll tell you that. Lots to talk about. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate your time.
Good to see you.
All right, likewise. 7:09 now. The White House says the president's son-in-law, as we just mentioned moments ago, also met with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. before Inauguration Day. Jared Kushner was at the same meeting as former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who stepped down as a result of that meeting. Kushner is married to the president's daughter Ivanka and is now a senior White House advisor.
President Trump visited thousands of